Hey YouTube, Joel Boy here. So today I want to talk about Luffy versus Zoro. And so guys, what exactly is this video? Well, it's not going to be exactly what you may think. I'm not going to do a battle comparison between Luffy and Zoro because straight up, Luffy would beat Zoro in a fight regardless because of plot armor. And so that discussion doesn't really go anywhere for me. And so I don't really care who exactly is stronger. What I want to draw your attention to in this video is the possibility that they may actually fight. And so guys, I want to draw your attention to several very strange scenes involving Zoro since the time skip. Now guys, for the majority of the Straw Hat crew, they have an unbreakable belief in Luffy's greatness. They literally, no matter what Luffy does, will always support him, aside from comedic relief scenes in which sometimes they pick on Luffy because he is a retard. But besides those scenes, when the getting gets hot, they always 100% believe in Luffy. And there's only one character post-time skip who doesn't seem to always have this belief, and that character is Zoro. And so the first thing that I want to bring to your attention is the fact that Zoro has extremely high expectations for the man who would call himself Zoro's captain. He almost says it explicitly in the Fishman Island arc where it was 10 versus 100,000. And so all the Straw Hats had to take out a large number of Hody Jones's crew, and then Luffy walks in there with the Conqueror's Haki and takes out half of their forces, and Zoro literally says this. He says, you know, he seems pleased, but he says that this is what I would expect of someone who would call himself my captain. Essentially, if Luffy couldn't do this, then he wouldn't live up to Zoro's expectations of him. And so the impression that I get of this whole situation is that Zoro is incredibly strong. This is something that pretty much every One Piece fans knows at this point in time. Zoro is a beast. And so for somebody to call himself Zoro's captain, that person would have to be equally as strong, if not stronger. And so Luffy literally has to be on that high level in order to sort of gain Zoro's respect. But it seems for Zoro, it's not just about being strong enough to be Zoro's captain, it's also about acting like you should as Zoro's captain. Essentially, you can't dick around and you can't fuck around because your mistakes might not only cost your own life, but the life of your entire crew, including Zoro himself. This is pretty much exactly what Zoro tells Luffy in the Punk Hazard arc after Luffy was previously defeated by Caesar because he underestimated Caesar. And it almost led to the defeat and capture of the Straw Hat Pirates. All because Luffy essentially misgauged the situation and didn't give Caesar his all. Zoro says it straight up, we're in the new world. You cannot let your guard down for a moment. But yet, despite his words, Luffy does his own thing anyway. And guys, I think this ties extremely well with my understanding of why Zoro is a Straw Hat Pirate. Now, to a lot of you, you may think, well, Zoro is a Straw Hat Pirate because he wants to help Luffy become the Pirate King. That is not the entire truth, if the truth at all. The main reason why Zoro is a Straw Hat Pirate is because he wants to become the greatest swordsman in the world, and joining Luffy's crew is a great way in order for Zoro to attain the experience, practice, and hone his skills to be able to reach that kind of level. And so I don't think that Zoro believes that Luffy is absolutely necessary for him to obtain this, especially if Luffy doesn't live up to his potential as both a fighter and a leader. If Zoro feels like Luffy will jeopardize his opportunity to become the greatest swordsman in the world, I believe that Zoro would confront Luffy over his issue. Which is essentially what Zoro did in Punk Hazard. He saw Luffy not taking it seriously and told him straight up, Luffy, you got to take this seriously or else it could cost everyone. But if this was all that there was, then there wouldn't really be anything here to talk about. It would just be something about, you know, Luffy take the New World seriously, then Luffy starts to take the New World seriously, and we move on. But Luffy hasn't really taken the New World seriously after the point in time in which Zoro warned him. We got through the Dressrosa arc, and there really wasn't much to be said, all things considered. But guys, then we hit the Zou arc, and there was an absolutely just monumental moment in the story of One Piece that we have not seen ever before, with the exception of one time in the past. And this was Zoro literally saying to Luffy, your choice of action is wrong. Zoro straight up did not believe that Luffy should have gone after Sanji. And guys, this was no joke because Zoro literally laid out his thoughts. Essentially right now they are fucked because they have garnered the wrath of Kaido. They've specifically undermined Kaido's plans and Kaido will be after their blood. Meanwhile, Sanji decides to get involved with another Yonko and Big Mom, and there is no way that, or at least Zoro doesn't feel like, that they can deal with both Big Mom and Kaido at the same exact time, so he feels that they should literally leave Sanji behind and focus on Kaido and all the various people that their dreams are relying on them. And again guys, the reason that this is significant is because Zoro is 100% serious. You can see this in his body language, in his just facial reactions, the way that he says things. Zoro is dead serious. This is not intended to be comedic relief, which is almost the only other time in which we see scenes like this. Like for instance, Luffy does something silly or stupid and Nami beats him up because of that. This is not like that scene at all. There's only been one time in the history of One Piece in which a Straw Hat has legitimately questioned Luffy's decision making, and that was all the way back in the Water 7 arc with Usopp and Luffy. The Going Merry was dying, and Usopp refused to let her die, while Luffy was forced to accept the reality that she was going to die. And this conflict was no joke and ultimately led to the Usopp vs. Luffy fight. And guys, I don't think Zoro was joking either. I think that Zoro right now is literally questioning Luffy as his captain. Or else we have to wonder why exactly Oda decided to show us this progression in their relationship in the Zou arc. Oda had to have included this for a reason. And so why exactly was it important to Oda for him to show us that Zoro did not believe in Luffy's choice of action? Guys, I really think something is here. I really think that Oda is setting up conflict between Zoro and Luffy. Zoro is right now portrayed as being very skeptical of Luffy as his captain, from having high expectations of Luffy and to the point of actually having to say that if Luffy was any less strong than he was, then perhaps he wasn't cut out to be Zoro's captain. All the way until we can see that he really wants Luffy to take things seriously, despite the fact that Luffy literally won't take anything seriously, all the way to this last scene where he literally straight up questions Luffy and saying that, bro, you're making the wrong decision. And so there's a very popular thought out in the community that Luffy will run away from Whole Cake Island with Big Mom at his heels. Essentially, he'll take Sanji, he'll take the Poneglyph, and he'll get out of Whole Cake Island. Meanwhile, Big Mom, having not been defeated, will come after them. And so when they meet up with the other Straw Hats in Wano, Kaido will be in front of them and Big Mom will be behind them. This is something that I do not believe. But if you do believe this, then this would only add further justification to Zoro's doubts about Luffy. Essentially, Luffy would have then put the crew into a situation in which at first glance would seem impossible to get out of, and would definitely justify Zoro essentially telling Luffy that you fucked the crew and because of this I am now leaving. Or if you believe as I do that the Straw Hats will walk out of Whole Cake Island smelling like roses, having accomplished everything that they want to, looking badass, awesome with additional forces, then, you know, even still, Zoro could still be questioning whether or not Luffy is the right man for the job, just based on the fact that he was willing to take such a risk at potentially a great cost that Zoro didn't deem worth it. But this doesn't have to be resolved right away. There's also the question of whether or not Luffy can legitimately beat a Yonko at this point in the story. There's a lot of people who are hoping or expect that there will be a second time skip, and so if the Straw Hats are literally beaten again after their years of training because Luffy didn't take things seriously, took on more than he was capable of, which he's emphasized also in the Whole Cake Island arc, by repeatedly putting himself in no-win situations, just the same as it would be if he took on both Yonko at the same exact time, Zoro may decide that he no longer believes Luffy is the man who will lead him to achieve his dream. And so guys, regardless of the circumstances which ultimately develops into this conflict, I do believe Oda is actually setting it up. And so with all this being said, I feel like I have to state explicitly that of course Zoro is not permanently leaving the Straw Hat crew. There is a 0% chance of that happening, but it could be very similar to what happened between Luffy and Usopp in the Water 7 arc, where essentially Usopp stops believing in Luffy as his captain and goes his own way, before eventually they reconcile their differences and join forces again. And so for Zoro, I believe this would have something to do with understanding that Luffy is the main hero of the story of One Piece. His plot armor is so strong that no amount of obstacles can stop him from shitting on every villain in the story, and he will win regardless of the odds. Anyway guys, let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree or disagree and why. Let me know if you have anything to add to this theory or anything that may contradict it. Just share your thoughts. Like the video if you like the video. Dislike the video if you dislike the video. Subscribe if you want to be notified for my future videos. And as always guys, have a wonderful day.